The wind came like shards of glass. On Glacia Theta, storms weren't merely weather, they were elemental rages that tore at metal and marrow alike. Human Foreman Aiden Kirov knew this better than most. Each gust was a scream, each flurry a battering. The colony's corrugated shelters rattled on their pilings as ice crystals whirled through the night sky, illuminated by the red pulse of emergency beacons. Aiden hunched lower into his parka's insulated collar, the thermal lining a meager defense against the plunging temperature. He trudged through ankle-deep drifts toward the cargo bay, where 3 spools of support tubing had torn loose from the overhead gantry. Sparks danced in the darkness each time the metal rails shuddered under the storm's assault. The scanner on his wrist glowed a frantic yellow. External temperatures had plunged to 148 degrees C, and wind speeds held steady at 320 km/h. Systems would begin to fail within the hour if he didn't secure that gantry. Lightning, a rare pale blue discharges born from static glacial friction, snapped through the sky, illuminating the scene in brief, strobing flashes. He masterfully looped, a tethered wrench around the remaining support yanking it free just as a bolt tore away. The spindle clattered across the ice with a hollow clang that echoed like a gunshot. He exhaled, forcing air downward so it wouldn't freeze in his mask. In the dim glow of his flashlight, he scanned for the last loose cable. It was then that he heard it, a single high-pitched whine too soft to carry over the gale but persistent, spasmodic, like a heartbeat fighting for life. "Hello?" he shouted, voice muffled behind layers of fabric. The storm swallowed his words. Still the whine came again, a plaintive thread beneath the howl of wind. He knew better than to ignore something so out of place. Veering off the maintenance path, he kicked snow aside, carving a trail toward the service hatch that led to the old ore processing wing, long since decommissioned. The hatch's locking mechanism had frozen. He grunted as he pried it open with the butt of his harness-mounted wrench. Ice tumbled into the void behind the hatch as he flipped the panel aside, the scent of stale coolant and rust greeting him. He stepped inside. The wind's roar fell away, replaced by an eerie hush broken only by that plaintive whine. Headlamp on, he scanned the dim chamber lined with stacked cargo crates. The whine grew louder, more desperate, guiding him to a collapsed shelter tarp, draped over a corner pallet. Under it lay something small, inert, and coated in frost. With gloved hands, Aiden brushed aside the tarp. 2 creatures, no larger than a medium dog, huddled together, curled in a protective circle. Their fur was crystalline, each strand shimmering in opalescent hues that shifted like oil on water. Their bodies were encased in a thin layer of ice. Tiny frosted spikes clung to fur and whiskers alike. Limbs were rigid, bellies drawn tight in the cold. They looked almost carved, like statues abandoned in a glacier. "No," Aiden whispered. He knelt and peeled off his outer glove, ignoring the risk as his bare fingers met the creature's frosty fur. The ice cracked and rained down in crystalline fragments. He drew them inside his jacket, nestling them against the warmth of his chest. Their tiny hearts fluttered against his thermal vest. He could feel the pulse, weak but unmistakable. "Hang on, all right?" he murmured, voice thick. He kicked the hatch shut behind him, the seal rattling but holding against the wind. With one arm cradling the 2 alien pups and the other gripping the wrench for balance, Aiden stumbled back toward the main shelter. Every step was agony as numbness crept up from his spine, but adrenaline spurred him onward. His comm badge crackled. "Reyes, this is Kirov. Bring that medbay suite online. I've got 2 frostbitten life forms inbound." "On my way," came the reply, strained but professional. The wind assaulted the outer door as he burst in, a blast of icy air followed by furious blinking lights. Technician Reyes hurried out of the control room, her breath fogging in the beam of her lamp. She took in the sight of Aiden's half-frozen face, the 2 strange creatures swaddled in his jacket, their crystalline fur melting into rivulets of iridescent water. "Holy, what are those?" she gasped, stepping forward. Fragments of ice tinkled to the floor as Aiden carefully unwrapped his jacket, revealing the pup's gaunt forms. "Not sure," he said, voice hoarse, "but they're alive. He handed the smaller of the two to Reyes, who barely caught it. Under her biolight scanner, the creature's fur glowed, then flickered. Biometry's off the charts. I'm detecting multiple hearts and their metabolic rate. Her words trailed off as she registered the crystalline compounds in their bloodstream. This is alien physiology. Aiden wiped frost from his face. That storm hit the ore processing wing dead center. Whatever their origin, they got caught out there if we don't act fast. And Reyes tapped commands into the console, sealing the medbay's inner doors. I'll override quarantine protocols, but only for now. We've got to warm them gradually or risk ice crystal damage to their cells. The two pups lay limp in the kinetic warming cradle Reyes activated. Soft blue light enveloped them as nebulous warmth spread through the chamber. Aiden watched, silent, heart-pounding. He'd faced ice storms and ore collapses, riots in the asteroid belt, but nothing like this. As moisture beaded on their fur, one pup stirred, thin legs flexing. Aiden stepped forward, offering a gloved hand. The little creature's eye cracked, open, revealing an opalescent orb flecked with silver. It blinked once, then whined softly, a sound that cut through his exhaustion, straight to his core. Aiden's breath caught. "You're going to be okay," he whispered, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. The storm raged beyond the reinforced walls, but in that moment of quiet, a new responsibility settled on his shoulders. Protect these fragile, otherworldly beings at any cost. The howl of the storm might have claimed the rest of Glacia Theta, but in his arms, life, alien and miraculous, had a fighting chance, and Aiden Kirov was its last line of defense. The medbay's inner doors slid shut with a pneumatic hiss, sealing the pups and their fledgling rescuers away from Glacia Theta's ravaging winds. Technician Reyes exhaled a shaky breath as she keyed the ambient controls. The room's temperature climbed in gentle increments and soft violet light bathed the warming cradle, where the two pups lay curled together. Tubes of nutrient gel and hydrating serums lined the nearby counter, their alarms set to monitor delivery rates. Aiden Kirov stood sentinel by the cradle, his foreman's harness slung carelessly over one shoulder. His face, still tinged with frostbite, caught every flicker of biolight readings and thermal charts. "How long before they stabilize?" he asked, voice strained. Reyes tapped at her console. "Their core temperature is rising at 0.5 degree per minute. At this rate, they'll break hypothermia in under 20. But their cellular structure is delicate. Ice crystals could rupture membranes. We have to keep this gradual." She paused. "I've overridden quarantine protocols, but if the commander finds out..." Aiden shook his head. "We'll handle the commander when he shows. Right now, they need us." He drew a deep breath and looked back to the cradle. The pup's crystalline fur had lost its icy sheen. The finer hairs floated like silvery mist around them. One pup lifted a trembling head, opened its eye fully, and fixed him with a curious, unblinking stare. The iris was a swirl of moonstone and storm cloud gray. "Did you see that?" Aiden whispered. Reyes nodded, eyes wide. "Neurological readings show coherent brainwave patterns, subsentient at least. They're alive, aware, and possibly frightened." He crouched beside the cradle and spoke softly. "You're safe now. You're not alone." His words sounded strange in the sterile chamber, but the pup reacted. Its ears flicked forward, as if registering the promise of refuge. A silent hush settled over the room. Outside, the storm's fury continued unabated. But here, in this oasis of warmth, hope pulsed. Over the next hour, Reyes administered microdoses of nutrient gel, while Aiden scavenged supply lockers for soft blankets and biometric sensors. He fashioned a temporary nesting area atop a padded shelf, layers of thermal fabric interwoven with gentle heating coils. By the time he finished, the pups lay snug and warm in their new haven, their breathing steady, hearts beating firmly on the readout. Reyes stepped back from the console and let out a long exhale. "They're out of immediate danger. I'll set the metabolic stimulators to monitor organ function overnight." She glanced at Aiden. "What do we do next?" Aiden glanced at the sleeping forms, a quiet determination settling in his chest. We learn what they are, and we protect them. The next morning, news of the rescue spread through the outpost like wildfire. Workers ducked into medbay en route to shift changes, whispering behind gloved hands. In the dim corridor, posters flagged biohazard protocol and report unauthorized alien contact. Aiden and Reyes exchanged uneasy looks as Colonel Ferris's heavy footsteps approached. Ferris's stern silhouette filled the doorway. Behind him stood 2 security officers, rifles slung at low ready. "Foreman," he barked. "Explain." His gaze flicked between the foreman, the technician, and the sealed medbay. Aiden squared his shoulders. "I found them during the storm. 2 pups, frozen solid. I brought them here so they'd live." Ferris's jaw clenched. "They're alien. You know the policy. Any non-human life form must be quarantined for study. No exceptions." Reyes stepped forward, cradling a data pad. "Colonel, their vitals are delicate. Rapid transfer to a biocell could kill them. They need continued care here until we understand their physiology." She tapped the pad, pulling up biolight scans. Layered heart chambers, crystalline hemoglobin, a faint electromagnetic field surrounding their bodies. "This could rewrite xenobiology." Ferris's eyes hardened as he eyed the images. "So, this is more than fluff and fur. All right. Temporary reprieve. But they stay under armed guard and no one touches them without my authorization." Aiden let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Understood." As the colonel exited, Reyes checked her data pad again. "They're more complex than any species cataloged. Look, 2 hearts for redundancy in extreme environments. Crystal-like ferritin that may store energy differently. Their cell membranes show piezoelectric properties." Aiden knelt beside the nest. 1 pup stirred, low-pitched whines bubbling from its throat. The other nestled closer, small muzzle nuzzling its sibling for warmth. Aiden extended a gloved finger to the nearest pup, and it licked at it, tongue soft, cheeks quivering. Reyes smiled despite herself. "They recognize you." He offered a gentle grin. "They're survivors, and I think they chose me to see them through. We'll unlock their secrets and—" He paused, gaze drifting to the frosted viewport where the storm still raged. "We'll prove that kindness is stronger than fear." In the luminescent blue glow of the med bay, amid beeping consoles and the hiss of warming coils, a fragile peace settled. Beyond the reinforced walls, the ice storm still howled, but inside, 2 alien life forms had found sanctuary, battered but alive. Strangers, turned wards of a human foreman with a promise to keep. Morning light seeped through the frosted viewport in thin, pale ribbons. Inside the medbay, Technician Reyes hovered over the biometric console, eyes glued to the fluctuating graphs. Aiden Kirov stood beside her, arms folded, watching the 2 pups explore their nest with tentative curiosity. "Look at this," Reyes said, zooming in on a waveform. "Their cardiac rhythms are synchronized, almost as if they share one consciousness when they're together." Aiden leaned forward, like a twin bond. He smiled as one pup nudged the other, whiskers twitching. "How much longer until we can run a full physiological diagnostic?" Reyes tapped the console. "If we can sustain them here another 8 hours, I can cycle them through the low-stress chamber. We'll get muscle tone scans, neural mapping, energy storage readings." She glanced at the sealed door. "But we're skating on thin ice with the commander's patience." A muted alarm sounded from the security station outside the medbay. Aiden's comm badge lit up. "Kirov here." "Foreman," came Colonel Ferris's clipped voice. "Report to command center immediately. Bring your technician." Aiden exchanged a glance with Reyes. "Understood." They stepped into the corridor, the pups' soft whines fading behind the closing doors. In the corridor, workers paused mid-stride to stare. Whispers trailed after them. Alien life form, hostile fauna, unsanctioned research. Aiden squared his shoulders and led Reyes through the humming hub of the outpost. The command center's holotable glowed with schematics of the colony's layout, defense turrets, and communication relays. Colonel Ferris stood at its head, flanked by Lieutenant Sorensen and Chief Scientist Navarro. The air crackled with tension. Ferris cut to the chase. Our long-range scanners have detected clandestine signals on the planet's far side. They match neither human nor known xenopatterns. I've authorized a covert strike team to investigate. He pointed at a blinking blip on the map. We leave in 2 hours. Navarro folded his arms. Sir, with all due respect, we can't divert resources. The priority is to study these pups. Their biochemistry could be the breakthrough that secures the colony's future. Ferris's gaze hardened. We have protocol. First contact must be contained and neutralized if necessary. Navarro, your science team will accompany the strike unit. He turned to Aiden and Reyes. Kirov, Reyes, you're with them. The pups remain locked in quarantine until we deem them non-threatening. Aiden felt his chest tighten. Colonel, they're not weapons. They're juveniles, defenseless. Ferris cut him off. Orders, Foreman. Reyes swallowed. Permission to speak freely. Ferris hesitated, then nodded curtly. Reyes met his gaze. If these signals come from the pups' species, we risk killing their pack, perhaps their entire civilization, before we even understand what they want. A tense silence. Outside the viewport, storm-scarred ridges gleamed under Glacia Theta's weak sun. Ferris's jaw clenched. Find out what's over there, and bring back whatever or whoever you encounter. Dismissed. As the officers filed out, Aiden caught Reyes's eye. We need another way. Reyes nodded. Agreed. They slipped down a side corridor, toward the decommissioned ore processing wing. The floor was pockmarked with old maintenance hatches and half-rusted service bots. At the far end, through a crack in the wall paneling, they glimpsed their quarry's den, still hidden by drifted snow. A low rumble underfoot made them pause. A faint glow pulsed beyond the hatch. Aiden unlatched the panel, sliding it aside, with a screech. Inside the cavity, 2 small silhouettes crouched in the shadows, luminous eyes fixed on them. The pups were gone. Reyes's breath caught. But the med bay was sealed. Aiden peered deeper into the makeshift den. On the icy floor lay faint feather-light prints, hexagonal pads arranged in pairs. He traced them to a narrow tunnel gouged beneath the ice. Their walls shimmered with frost-etched runes, or what looked suspiciously like purposeful markings. A chill ran through Aiden. They left deliberately. Reyes knelt, scanning the markings with her hand held. These glyphs aren't random cracks. They're communication, coordinates, maybe a rendezvous point. Through the ice beyond the tunnel's mouth, distant thunder rolled, too deep to be a storm. Outside, 2 small creatures paced the crater's edge, half hidden against the white expanse. In the pale winter light, their shapes looked almost humanoid, but twice the height of a man. Their crystalline fur refracted the sun into prismatic halos. Aiden swallowed hard. I think we're not the only ones looking for them. Reyes's eyes were bright with both fear and wonder. We need to follow. If they've gone to their pack, we can broker peaceful contact, maybe avoid a firefight altogether. He nodded. But we can't let Ferris's strike team go unprepared. We'll need evidence, whatever we find down there, to convince him. And we'll need backup. As they set to work rigging portable comm beacons and environmental scanners, the rumble grew louder, an echo of colossal engines starting at the horizon. Somewhere beyond the ice field, something was coming, and they would have to reach the pups before the colony's guns did. In the hush before the storm of war, Aiden and Reyes slipped into the subterranean passage, 2 unlikely ambassadors, on a desperate mission to save both species from the worst threat yet, human fear of the unknown. A brittle calm settled over Glacia Theta at first light. The ice fields, once roiled by the tempest, lay still beneath a pale lavender sky. Aiden Kirov and technician Reyes emerged from the subterranean tunnel onto a windswept plateau, breath swirling like spirits in the crisp air. They paused to survey their surroundings. Jagged spires of ice surrounded a vast frozen plain, and beyond its edge, the horizon glowed with unnatural light. Up there, Reyes whispered, pointing toward the zenith. hundreds of streaks of sunlight, fractured against the ice, massive shadows gliding into orbit. She activated her wrist comm. "Colonel Ferris, this is Reyes. We've located the juveniles' den and discovered their kin. You need to see this, now." Her video feed flickered, then displayed the vestibule of a cavern lit by phosphorescent crystals. Dozens of lupine forms, horned and crystalline-furred, stood in solemn circles around a wise, towering alpha. Its fur blazed with inner light, and every creature's attention was fixed on the two adolescent pups at its side. Ferris's voice crackled back, taut with tension. "Get them back to the command center now, or I'll dispatch the strike team. We have incoming ships, hostile unknown." Aiden steadied his voice. "Colonel, if you fire on our own rescuers, you'll spark an interstellar war. Those ships are here for them." Before Ferris could reply, the ground rumbled. Far to the east, beyond the ice fields, a glittering armada of 2,000 vessels glided into the upper atmosphere, their sleek hulls reflecting Glacia Theta's frozen wastes. Alarms blared across the colony. Warning lights strobed, and every crewman scrambled to battle stations. "Unidentified ships, 2,000, the automated announcement intoned. "Estimated arrival in T-3 minutes. Reyes cursed, under her breath. "We have to stall him, show proof." She keyed a secure uplink. Moments later, the command center's view screen switched from tactical overlays to the crystalline cavern. Ferris stood transfixed as the Alpha Wolf approached, the camera raising a forepaw etched with glowing glyphs. Aiden raised his voice. "Do you see that? They're sanctuaries, not soldiers." Ferris's aide disrupted the feed. "Colonel, incoming transmission from the fleet. They're hailing us." Aiden grabbed Reyes's arm. "Can you patch it through?" She worked feverishly. Almost there. On the hangar's massive hollow screen, bioluminal patterns flickered. An unknown language, but one Reyes's neural transcriber began parsing into elemental glyphs. Peace, pact, child protectors. The Alpha's voice thrummed in resonance with the hull, low melodic pulses that translated to a greeting. "We come for our young. We offer alliance." The alarm klaxons fell silent. Ferris's hard lines slackened. "They want parley," he murmured. Aiden sprinted toward the makeshift landing zone prepared for their freighter. In his arms, one of the pups whimpered. Its brother pressed close. Behind him, Reyes carried the comm beacon, an experimental device patched into the alien translation matrix. They reached the snowfield where a single escort shuttle hovered, on thrusters. The first vessel of the armada descended in a halo of frosted mist. Its hull was smooth, reflective like liquid glass, and emblems of crystalline wolves adorned its flank. A hatch opened with a soft hiss, revealing a slender being clad in luminescent armor, its eyes twin moons of silver. Aiden stepped forward, mind racing. He knelt and raised the pup high above his head, a gesture of trust taught in his childhood. Days as a foreman's apprentice, offering one's greatest charge. The alien paused, head tilting, then dipped in acknowledgement. Behind him, Ferris's convoy of armored walkers and human troops spilled onto the ice, weapons at the ready. But none fired, awed by the unfolding reunion. The alien emissary spoke, voice resonant like wind through crystal caves. The translation matrix blinked on Reyes's tablet. "We honor your courage. The bond you forged saves both our peoples. Let this day be the dawn of our confederation." As the icy sun gleamed on the alien warrior's polished helm, Aiden realized that the true storm had just broken, and from its heart, a fragile alliance would rise. The howl of war had been silenced by the howl of the wolf, and tomorrow, under Glacia Theta's frozen skies, two species would learn to stand side by side. The afternoon light glinted off the ice fields as Glacia Theta's sky filled with the elegant silhouettes of the crystalline armada. In the vast landing zone, once hostile ground now hallowed by truce, Aiden Kirov stood alongside Colonel Ferris and Technician Reyes. Before them, the Alpha Wolf, now towering and regal, lowered its head in a salute that echoed the human gesture of respect. Around them, human engineers and alien caretakers worked side by side, exchanging tools and data tablets. Ferris cleared his throat, the weight of command softening in his voice. Foreman Kirov, thank you. His gaze shifted to the Alpha. And to you, honored emissary. Today we bind our destinies. He held out a gloved hand. The Alpha extended a crystalline paw. Where flesh met fur, a faint pulse of light arced between them, an unspoken covenant of peace and cooperation. Moments later, in the newly erected pavilion of the outpost, Aiden watched as the two orphaned pups, now full-grown juveniles, played in the snow with a pair of young alien handlers. One pup turned and bounded toward him, then curled at his feet, gazing up with moonstone eyes that held both gratitude and promise. He knelt and stroked its cooling fur. "You're home," he murmured. Reyes joined him, datapad in hand. Their scans show accelerated healing and adaptive physiology. With our combined technology, we'll learn to harness these traits for medicine, for environmental adaptation, perhaps even to terraform new worlds. She tapped a series of coordinates on the pad, opening plans for joint research complexes and training programs. A sudden hush swept over the assembled crowd as the alpha wolf raised its head and howled, a sound rich and sonorous carrying across the frozen plains. One by one, the alien ships responded in kind, their hulls shimmering with harmonic resonance. At Aiden's side, Ferris lifted his helmet visor to listen, eyes glistening. In that haunting song, the humans heard not an alien call to arms, but a hymn of unity. As evening fell, Glacia Theta's twin moons rose above the jagged horizon. Beneath their silvery glow, humans and crystalline wolves gathered at the treaty circle, an ancient alien symbol etched into the ice, now glowing softly with bioluminescent runes. Aiden stood at its center with the pups at his side, Reyes at his back and Ferris raising the human standard on one side, the Alpha raising the silver pennant of the Wolf Confederation on the other. In the distance, two worlds converged, one forged in human steel and struggle, the other in crystalline grace and cosmic wisdom. And in that convergence under the silent watch of stars and glaciers, Aiden Kirov felt the promise of tomorrow. That kindness can thaw the deepest frost, and that from the smallest act of rescue, entire civilizations might learn to walk together among the stars.